practice quiz, and some of these questions will be probably pretty similar to the real quiz. So we'll do every other question. We'll do the questions, starting with number 1. So we have, my sister is an accountant. She is very busy at tax time. So you have 2 options. You could copy the whole sentence and type it in there, or you could just put the connecting word. In this case, we need so, and we have to put a comma before so. So this would be fine if you wanted to answer it like this, or you could just enter comma so, but please put that comma. That is the biggest mistake that people are making on the practice quiz, or they're not putting the punctuation. So we need you to put a comma, the semicolon, the period, something like that. Okay? So let's go to number 3. Does anyone know? Yes?
Can we go back to number 1? Why do you say we need so? The instructions were, sorry about that. We need so. The instructions were type in the correct, complete the sentence, include any necessary punctuation. Oh, I was like, there's somewhere where I told us not to use the coordinators. I thought we were using a coordinator. It's this, and so is the coordinator. Go on.
You are exactly right. You are exactly right. In a different type of question, we are not supposed to use the coordinators, the fanboys. So thank you for pointing that out. I think that's a little bit later. Okay, number 3. Number 3, the weather has been rainy. We still spend as much time as possible outdoors. Which connecting word do we put here? Although?
Although the weather, then.
Correct. Do we need to put a comma with although?
Oh. No.
No, we don't put a comma with although. Okay. Many people think it's so the comma is already here. It goes after rainy. So remember that although is a subordinator. Although is similar to because in sentence structure, in the punctuation. It has a different meaning, but it has the same punctuation and sentence structure as because. So what does that mean? For because, if we, and the reason I'm talking about because is that many students already know the rules for because. So you know that we say, I like to dance because it is fun. If because is in the middle of the sentence, it just stays in the middle and no comma. But we could say because it was raining, we moved the party inside. Okay, so if because is at the beginning of the sentence, we have a comma in the middle. It is the same punctuation for although. So everything that's in the green group on our chart is like because, if, when, before, after, even though,
as soon as,
since, all of those fit in that same group. Okay, when, yes, exactly. So just sometimes it's easier to remember one type as an example, and then just decide which other ones are similar to it. Okay, questions about that one? Okay, number 5. And I know, I'm sorry. I am going to talk about even. Okay, even is not a connecting word by itself. Even is not a connecting word by itself. Many times people think this. So even if, even though, and even when are connecting words. And they have the same structure as although, even though, and even when. They're subordinators, okay? But even by itself can be like, she even got, more like an adverb, okay? She even bought a new dress. Even is modifying bought, okay? The baby was even more beautiful than I imagined, okay? E-E-A-U. Okay, the baby was even more beautiful than I imagined. So that's not a connecting word. That's just making something stronger. But even by itself has to be with even if, even though, or even when. So we could say even though the weather has been rainy. It's just not one of our choices. Okay. Do you want me to explain the meaning of even if or even when, or what do you guys think? Do you feel okay about it? Okay. Number 5. The north of the United States is often cold. The south is much warmer. Which would be the best connecting word for this one?
Nevertheless.
Nevertheless.
Nevertheless is good. It is okay.
In contrast.
Nevertheless does show like a difference or something like that, or something like a surprise. Okay. But when we have a direct comparison, it's often better to use in contrast. So if you put nevertheless, I will give you the points. But the best answer actually is in contrast. What punctuation do we need with in contrast?
A semicolon after the north of the United States is often called semicolon. Nevertheless, in contrast, comma, the south is much warmer.
Okay, that would be perfect. So we could say semicolon, in contrast, comma. Okay. We could also say, or the other choice is to put a period, full stop after cold, and then in contrast with a capital I. Okay. The same punctuation would be for nevertheless. The same punctuation would be for nevertheless. Okay. Alejandra, question.
Can you please give us example with nevertheless, please?
Absolutely. An example of a sentence with nevertheless would be, we didn't study very much. Nevertheless, we got an A on the test. Okay. We couldn't really say in contrast here because it's not a direct contrast. It's more like surprising information in the second part of the sentence. Okay. So sometimes we can use nevertheless or in contrast. Like if you wanted to put nevertheless here, it would be okay. Nevertheless. But it would not work to put in contrast here. Okay, so nevertheless is more general, and in contrast is better for a direct comparison. By direct comparison, I mean we can actually imagine holding those two things in front of us and comparing them directly. Okay, another one we could use here, which is not a choice, but we could use on the other hand, right? So on the other hand and in contrast are very similar because we imagine you can mute maybe if you're not talking. Okay. Okay. We can imagine like two hands, one with the north, one is with the south. It's the same reason we would use in contrast. Now I have another question for you. Can we use on the contrary? The south is much warmer. Does anybody know the meaning of on the contrary? We can't use on the contrary. So I want to talk just briefly about on the contrary because they look very similar, in contrast and on the contrary. Okay. Some people think that immigrants take jobs from Americans. Okay. On the contrary, immigrants help the U.S. economy more than they hurt it. Okay. So on the contrary, we use for to directly contradict. Contradict means we are saying that the previous sentence is false, okay? Some people think immigrants take jobs from Americans. On the contrary, the opposite. Immigrants help the economy more than they hurt it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a combination of on the contrary, in contrast, and on the other hand. So that was that point. Okay, let's go ahead and skip to number 7 since we're doing every other one. Snow blocked Natalie's view out the window. She slowed down and drove more carefully. Which connecting word would you use? You can put it in the yes, however. Oh, you can use however. Is this a contrast? So before you use however, is it a
Alright. You put a comma, semicolon.
The question that I have about this sentence is there a contrast between these two parts?
No.
There is not a contrast. The snow is blocking her. She slowed down. There's nothing different or surprising. So we cannot use however. Okay? So if there's no contrast, we cannot use however. Okay? So instead we should use
As a result.
Okay? So we should put window, semicolon, as a result, comma. She slowed down and drove more carefully. Okay, number 9. I plan to keep working here. I get a better job. I plan to keep working here. I get a better job. Which connecting word did you choose? Unless, if, or before?
Unless.
So the meaning of unless, so first of all, you just put the word unless. We don't need any comma, no punctuation. So unless has the same sentence structure as if, because, or although. That means we don't need any punctuation if it's in the middle of the sentence. So unless means if not. So we could also say, I plan to keep working here if I do not get a better job. Okay, so every time you see unless, think about if not. Okay, now we are on to number 11, which is the part that I was mentioning before about combining sentences. Type how you would combine two sentences using a subordinator or transition word. Do not use connect coordinators, fanboys. As a reminder, fanboys means for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. The reason we're not using those is because they are like a little too easy. We're trying to use the more difficult connecting words. And you have a bonus because you get to take this quiz at home, so you could always be looking at your connecting words chart while you take it. So there's really, we got to get a good grade on this. Okay, what did you use to connect these two sentences? There are many benefits of robots in society. They can rescue people who are trapped after a natural disaster. What could we use?
For example.
We could say here, for example, comma.
Nevertheless.
Okay, can we use nevertheless? Is there a contrast?
No, I don't remember what I used.
Well, you can go back afterwards because this quiz you can take many times and you can see your results. Some of them I have to grade. I have to put the grade in, so I'm trying to keep up with it. It's a hard week for me to keep up with grading. But there is no contrast, so that means we cannot use however, nevertheless, okay, although, or anything like that because there's no contrast. This is not a contrast. So we always want to start by analyzing sort of like the relationship between the two sentences. And it's not a contrast, it's an example. You could maybe say, instead of, for example, did anyone have another idea? You could say like, in fact.
Because.
Can we use for instance?
Yes, for instance would also work. Okay. We could use because. I agree. I think that was, I couldn't tell who said that. I think that's okay. It's a little strange because this part says there's many benefits and this part only says one. So
I remember
okay.
I used on the other hand. That's wrong too, because it's
I
like
think that's
over.
wrong because there's not a contrast.
Yeah.
So we cannot use on the other hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we use such as?
Such as.
That
Can't say such. No.
We cannot use such as in this exact situation. Why not?
It doesn't sound right.
You're right. Okay. So such as is similar in meaning to, for example,
Yeah.
but after such as, we cannot have a subject and verb. We cannot have a complete sentence. We only have a noun or a list of nouns. So we could say there are many benefits of robots in society, such as, we could say a noun, rescuing people who are trapped after a natural disaster. Okay? But if we are writing they can rescue, we cannot use such as. We need to use for example. Okay? If you watch my video, you know it's like a formula. It's a little bit annoying, but it's like a formula. Okay. This is a math question or like an economics question. So to be honest with you, I am very flexible. I don't put this question on the real quiz because I don't really know the relationship between these sentences. The stock market started to lose value. The Federal Reserve changed the interest rates. Does anybody know which happens first? Which is the cause? Which is the reason? And which is the result? You know?
No.
We need someone who studied economics.
The stock market started to lose value when Federal Reserve changed the rates.
I have to be honest with you. I think when is always a good choice in this type of situation where we're not exactly sure. So we could just say when. Do we need any punctuation? If we
No.
use when in the middle?
In the middle of
No.
the sentence, no.
What if I put here when the stock market started to when the stock market started to lose value, the
Comma.
Federal Reserve. Sorry?
We can put, if we have the at the beginning, if we have when at the beginning, we're supposed to put a comma after the clause.
That's right. Okay. So that would also be a good option. Does anyone remember any other option that you tried for this one?
May I just use when?
Okay. You could use because as a result. Yes, Oksana? Is that Oksana?
I don't remember, but I think I put because the Federal Reserve changed the interest rate.
Either way, and because we don't know which one happened first, so I will be very flexible. But you could say because, and put it at the beginning or in the middle with no punctuation, or you could put because here, and oops, no comma after because. The comma goes after the whole first sentence. Or as a result, would also work. Okay, Alejandra?
We can say the stock market started to lose value after the Federal Reserve changed the interest rates.
Yes, after would be good. And do you need any punctuation if you use after?
In the middle,
No.
That's right. Good job. Okay. Number 15. College classes are academically demanding. It is possible to be successful with hard work. College classes are academically demanding. It is possible to be successful with hard work. Is there a contrast between these two sentences? Yes. In this one, there is. So we can use a contrast connecting word. Can someone tell me an idea of how to combine these?
College classes are academically demanding, however, it's possible However, it's possible to be successful when with hard work.
Great. So what is the punctuation that we need with however?
Semicolon and comma.
Semicolon and a comma, or period and comma.
Okay, that is great. Or a period and a comma. I think this is a skill that gets easier the more you do it. So even though it's a little slow or annoying to always think about the punctuation this way, that's how we learn at this high level, in my opinion. We learn by doing it slowly and sort of in a boring, not boring, but like in a very slow way. And then later, it becomes more automatic in your writing. Okay, what if I want to use although? Okay, should I put although in the middle? Or should I put although in the beginning of the sentence?
The beginning.
It can be at the beginning, but it can't be in the middle.
It doesn't make sense in the middle. And why? The reason is although is a subordinator. Okay, subordinator means sub means below, like subway actually means a train below the ground. So it means that whichever part is connected to although is less important, it is below, and this part of the sentence is the main idea of the sentence, the part that is not connected to although. So when you so if you put although here in the middle, it makes the second part seem less important, and that sounds wrong to us. So that's why we don't do it. Can I use although and but in the same sentence? Although college classes are academically demanding, but it is possible to be successful with hard work. Is that okay?
I don't know.
It's not. Okay. Usually, sometimes when people have a subordinator, like if, they want to put so. No, we don't put two. It's possible to have two connecting words, but it's more like first we have to make sure we have enough for the clauses that there are. So we could say, it is possible to be successful with hard work, and many students do this. Okay, but we first have to make sure that we have two clauses that go with no other connecting word. Okay, so let's look at number 17 and 19, where we're just correcting and seeing if these sentences are right. So the boys want to play basketball again, and they want to compete with other teams. Is this sentence correct or not?
No.
Why not?
Because and can be in the beginning of the sentence. Sentence can start with sentence.
That's right. We shouldn't put and in the beginning of a sentence. We should put a comma and a small and, a comma after. Okay, or we should put in addition. Okay. Of course, when you read during reading class or whatever else you're reading in English, you might see and in the beginning.
The voice is lost.
Okay. I'm going to mute everybody else. Sorry, just to make sure. Can you hear me now? Is it better? Okay, great, thank you. So so you can use it once you finish ESL, okay? Number 19. Olivia does not enjoy running, nor does she like bicycling. Is this a good sentence? Is this an accurate sentence? Number 19.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this one is correct. Nor is a strange connecting word because after nor we use question order. So we don't really use it that often, but it's like and but negative. Okay, so we could say, I don't like pizza, nor does my sister. Okay, so it's a little bit different word. Just for a bonus, number 20. Leafy green vegetables such as kale and spinach contain essential nutrients. Is this a good sentence?
The punctuation.
This is actually okay, but we can have a comma. It's optional to put a comma before such as and after, but it's not required. So with such as, we don't have to put a comma with those prepositions. Okay, so does this help you with the connecting words quiz? Is this something that helps you a little bit more? Okay, I think we're going to start doing this more often just to go over the quiz like that, the practice quiz. Because in class, I would always go over the practice quiz. But I think it's better to sort of explain it like that. But please still try the practice quiz because we did not answer all the questions. We only answered every other one. Okay, and I think that our connecting words packet was in week 6. So if you need to review, I mean, if I were you and I was taking the quiz, I would have this file, connecting words packet, open, because it really does have the chart, has almost the answers to how you need to do the punctuation. Okay, and I'm not going to stop you from using it on your quiz because it's almost impossible. So just try to use them in your